Hi lovely and darling viewers, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy, and this time I'm doing part 2 of my Native American children's books. I'll post a link to part 1 down below, which has the full explanation of exactly why I'm doing this. But essentially, I realized I am doing really poorly at reading diverse books, and particularly Native American stories, either about Native American main characters or written by Native Americans. Like, just complete and utter fail there. So, I have 6 more picture books about Native Americans and their stories. They're picture books. They're really short. I'm probably going to spoil every single one of these. And also, I don't know much about Native American culture, and I don't have kids, so I can't testify to either their accuracy or how much children would like them. So, just my opinions. Okay. The first story is Crossing Buckcheeto, a Choctaw Tale of Friendship and Freedom by Tingle and illustrated by Jeanne Rorex Bridges. All the books, titles, and authors will be in the description below. So this is based on a oral traditions that's been passed down about this Native American girl who crosses this river, the Buckcheeto, from this Native American territory land to the white land where they're in the south and there are southern plantations with slaves. And she comes across this gathering of the slaves having a church outside, and she befriends one of the boys, and ultimately their friendship leads to her helping the boy and his family cross the river into freedom. So it's really cute and touching. It deals with both the Native American culture and also the black slaves on the plantation. So I liked it. I thought it was engaging and kind of sweet. I like the story of this girl whose name I can't remember. But just the way that she is kind of brave and willing to help them out. I like the idea that they can cross this river because there are these stones that are far enough below that you can't see them. They're not obvious, but like high enough up that you can actually walk across the water, which is kind of a cool illusion too to have going on. So I really liked this one. It was pretty much awesome. Next up is Brother Eagle, Sister Sky, paintings by Susan Jeffers. The text is from a speech given by Chief Seattle. So there was a treaty being signed between this Native American chief and white representatives of the government. And he gives them this speech about how they need to respect the land and the interconnectedness of things, and it's really cool. Kind of the main takeaway is that the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth. Kind of this main tenet about taking care of the earth and respecting it and how everything ties in together. Lots of really cool art with lots of animals and trying to spot like which animals made it into which picture was cool. The art style is a lot of line drawings. So this one was cool too. It's based off it's an actual historical speech, which has a nice side to it also. It's not like a narrative story as in like there's a plot going on, so that was a little bit different, but on the whole I still enjoyed it. Next I have Jingle Dancer by Cynthia Leitich Smith and illustrated by Cornelius van Wright and Ying-Hwa. Yeah, sorry. This is a contemporary story about a young girl, Jenna, who lives in this community that is like she's surrounded by Native American families, but it's a much more modern story. They live in typical houses with electricity and stuff. The story starts off with her watching her grandmother do this jingle dance at a powwow. And she's watching the video over and over, and she's trying to learn the steps, and she asks her grandmother if she can do it at the next powwow, and her grandmother's like, that's a great idea, but we don't really have enough jingles to make your dress. So she goes around to different people in the community and asks them if she can borrow these metal jingles to put on her dress so that it makes a jingling sound when she dances. So it's a cool look at modern Native American story, like families, and it's all women, and we have different women's in like different roles that they have. Like one is a cousin who's a lawyer and stuff, which is cool. And then she also has her grandmother and her great aunt. So you have this older generation too. Art in here is a bit more like watercolors, which is cool. I don't know where to put this, so I'm not blocking my mouth, but yeah. So I liked the art also. I like the fact that this was a more modern story and it wasn't just something that happened, a while ago and how things used to be, but how things are now. And definitely there's technology involved with like her watching her grandmother dance on this video over and over. But it was cool. Next up, we have The Rough Faced Girl by Rafe Martin and David Shannon. This is a story. So the story starts off with this Native American woman who lives in this house with her brother who's invisible and nobody else can see. And for some reason, the women in this community decided that they were going to marry the invisible brother, and it's going to be like this high status symbol. I didn't quite understand that part. Marrying somebody you can't see, but like they're like fighting over this basically. And so there are three sisters in this one family. The two older sisters are beautiful, and they go and they try to convince the sister that they can see him because that sister says that the brother will only marry somebody who can see him. And so she asks them questions like, "What does his bow look like?" And they're like, "I don't know. It's made out of an oak tree." Just like, yeah, that's not it. And then the third sister is this rough faced girl who's ugly, and the father spent all his money, and the father spent all like their prized resources on the older sisters who went first. So she's gathering up like broken shells and her father's moccasins that are worn out and too big for her. And she goes to ask the sister. He goes to ask to marry the invisible brother, and when the sister asks her what's his bow made of, she's like, "It's the rainbow," and she can see him the whole time because she's kind-hearted. It's kind of a good story, but it's also like not my favorite, mainly because I got hung up on this "why would you want to marry somebody you can't see" thing. I like my men solid, guys. As in physical tangibleness. So it's a good story about being, the importance of being kind and seeing the world around you and like everything and seeing the beauty in nature. But I was also thrown by I couldn't get into it either. And last I have Raven, A Trickster Tale from the Pacific Northwest by Gerald McDermott. So this is before the sun, and we have these people living in the darkness, and the Raven sees it, and he feels bad for them, and he remembers this one village that has a light, and so he goes to see how they have this light and to steal it from them. And to do this, he he turns into a pine needle, which the girl then swallows. And when she swallows that, she becomes pregnant with a child, and that child is actually the Raven. And the Raven tricks the people into showing them where the light source is, and he releases the light source, which is the sun, and it goes up into the sky and brings light to everyone. It's definitely got this, so it's definitely a more mystical, feeling to the story. For some reason, I was totally fine with this one. And how crazy this plot line got. And it was kind of cute. And we have the trickster, the Raven, who's not actually the bad guy. So on the whole, I liked this one. The art style in this story. However, it looks best. I think I skipped the art in. So this is the art for Rough Faced Girl, which I totally skipped. Much more like subdued watercolor type stuff going on. So there are my reviews for the second batch of children's Native American stories. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these or what books I should be reading next. whether they're children's books or adult teen books. Yeah. So peace out. I love you guys and keep reading. Bye.